Well, hello, good morning and good afternoon, wherever you're watching this from in the big wide world. Very warm welcome to our October live webinar and live stream with my two good friends and partners over at DeepStream in London. So we've got Dan Gianfredo, who is CEO of DeepStream. Dan, hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, James.
And we've got Aidan, who is Director of New Business, and I can't pronounce his last name because it's Swedish. So Aidan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone.
Okay, so just while we're waiting for anyone to join us, or if you're a couple of minutes late, for those of you that are on the stream, just pop in the comments where you're listening or watching this from. I'm always really intrigued to hear where people are joining us from. So always nice to know. I'm actually coming from my podcast studio, which is, I think, probably the second coldest place on earth, except for football stadiums in the middle of January. I just can't get this little cubbyhole warm no matter what I do, which is why it looks like I'm dressed for. We're going to do a quick 5 to 10 minute overview of DeepStream as a platform, which Dan will walk through. And then once we've done that, we will hand over the reins to Aidan, who will show you under the hood of DeepStream and do a live demo of some of the features and the UI UX of the platform. If you have questions during the stream, please just pop those into the chat. And we will pick those up. If it's something that is relevant during that point of the demo, I will flash it up on the screen and ask that question to either Dan or Aidan, whoever's presenting at the time. If it's something that is better suited to ask at the end of the webinar, then I'll do that at the end too. We should be finished about 40 minutes from now. So in total, we should be done at about 1:45, wherever you are. So, Aidan, Dan, sorry, I'm going to hand over to you first, if you're good to go. And I'll bring your slides up onto the screen. There we go. And over to you, sir.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for everybody who's joining us today. So as James just mentioned, I'm going to take you through a brief overview of DeepStream, just with a few slides. And then I'm going to hand over to Aidan for the demo, and you can see our solution. So for those of you who don't know, DeepStream is an eSourcing solution, best of breed eSourcing solution provider. And we cover mainly the mid-market. And within the mid-market, we do cover most industries, but the areas or the industries where we've got the largest footprint are energy and tech. And you can see some examples of our customers here. So our mission is, and we're very serious about this, is to become the benchmark for customer value realization within the eSourcing market. And the reason that's so important to us, and the reason we focus on it so much, is that, as many of you will know, 70% of digitalization programs in general fail. And that's across like all industries. I don't just mean in procure tech. So, you know, it's a ridiculous stat. And it means that trillions of dollars are being wasted on failed digital initiatives. And these are 5 of the key reasons. I won't go into them all. I won't read them all out, but you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, the 5 key reasons why initiatives fail. So we have really engineered our solution and our approach, our wraparound services, everything that we do, our core objective and everything that we do, as I say, is centered around customer value realization. So we really want to meet our customers where they are, provide them with everything that they need to succeed, nothing more than what they need, and then for them to scale organically. And our approach is around like using these 4 areas. So there's the maturity model approach, first of all. So we work diligently to understand with our customers where they are in terms of digital and procurement maturity, just to make sure that the package that we propose for them meets not just their needs, but also their current maturity. We've got what I would say is the most user-friendly, most intuitive solution in the marketplace, but I'll leave you guys to judge that for yourselves when you see the demo. We've also got in-app prompts to really drive users to adopt like the key functionality that really that really drives the value for our customers. And then we've got a very systematic, proven customer success framework that just ensures that we're working really closely with our customers in partnership, and that together we're driving success, and that we're driving adoption and essentially driving the customer value realization. And then on top of that, we also we make sure that customers have processes and questionnaire templates pre-built in the system so that they can hit the ground running and start using the platform straight away. So if you take all of those elements that I've just mentioned, they kind of fit into that left-hand section, and all of those together help us to ensure that our customers streamline, standardize, and optimize their processes, that they collect, harmonize, and analyze data and organize that data, and that they're able to track fully their audit trail. And those benefits then enable our customers to achieve their core procurement objectives, namely bolstering supply chain, driving down costs, and increasing compliance. So just so you can see a typical sales process with DeepStream, like this is one of the first and key slides that we'll be sharing to really understand what are the key objectives and what are the key challenges, just to ensure that we are the right fit, and that we really understand what you're trying to achieve and what success looks like. And then, as I said, we'll also try to understand, not just with this model here, but we've worked with some industry experts to pull together a procurement model and questions and even a kind of a brief quiz to really understand where customers are in terms of digital and procurement maturity. And then we make sure we're able to match the recommended package to meet exactly those needs and not to risk any kind of tech overwhelm. And then from a customer success perspective, we work, as I said, really closely with customers. We ensure that we have a success team built up from both organizations with multiple levels of seniority on both sides, that we make sure that we've got strategic alignment so that we've, as I said, really clear idea of what the objectives and challenges are, what the key success metrics are, and what the targets are. And together we can define them. And then together we will plan and execute a success plan or success program to ensure that customers start using the platform pretty much as soon as it's been implemented, that users are confident and comfortable running their first sourcing events, etc. And we'll handhold them through that process. And then once we've got everybody up and running onto the platform, it's then a case of going into quarterly value review meetings, where we're very, very focused on just seeing exactly where performance is against the KPIs and metrics and goals that we've set. And then we're just very agile in terms of working together with the customer to course correct together if we need to drive more adoption, drive more usage, drive more value in any of the key areas. And on the right-hand side there, you can see that, in the sales process, we do actually alert customers to say, look, we need you to be highly involved in driving the usage from your side, because we can't do it just from our side. And there's some key kind of tasks and actions there that we ask customers to commit to, because we want to make sure that it's a resounding success. And that's everything I wanted to cover. So unless there's any questions, I'll just hand over to Aidan.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dan. No questions have come in so far. So Aidan, I'll bring your screen up and we can move straight on to the demo.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Dan, for that. And yeah, just before we jump into the demonstration today, just want to explain what we will be covering during the demonstration now. I guess we split it into two main parts, which we'll be focusing on during the demonstration. The first part is kind of starting at the end of the process. So what we want to do is actually show you what a completed request would look like if you have used DeepStream to create the RFP. You've run the RFP process through the platform. you've received the bids, the responses from your suppliers, and what would that look like within the system, and how would you be able to compare those responses within DeepStream as well. Then what we'll do is we'll jump out of the completed RFP and we'll show you how you would actually be able to use DeepStream to create RFPs through the system. And that is either through RFP templates or being able to create RFPs completely from scratch on the platform. So that's what the structure of the demonstration will be. What we're looking at now, this is the main homepage of the platform. As Dan mentioned in his presentation, the main focus for us is around the RFX process, but we do also have other supporting modules such as pre-qualification. We have a contracts management module similar to a contracts repository, and then we do as well also have a supplier or an AI-powered supplier discovery module, and then the reporting aspect. So everything that you're doing from an RFX perspective, the spend, the savings, the budgeted values, all of that is feeding into the reporting parts of DeepStream. But to begin with, as mentioned, we'll start off by looking at what a completed request would look like, meaning you've gone through the RFP process, you've received all of the bids from your suppliers. This is the page that you would be looking at to track the progress throughout the RFP process. So in this example that we're looking at now, we can see that we've had 3 stages as part of the RFP. So with DeepStream, you have the ability to create different stages that you want the suppliers to go through as part of the RFP process. So in this example, we've had an NDA stage, we've had an RFP stage, and we've had a best and final offer stage. And all of the suppliers are currently completed in the 3rd stage, meaning they've done everything we've asked them to complete. Within this page or within DeepStream, you would also be able to manage communication between yourself and the suppliers that are participating. So you have various different messaging capabilities where you can post out bulletin posts. These get broadcasted to all of the participating suppliers. And then you have clarifications and as well a chat feature. What you'd also be able to do is go through approvals processes through the platform. So this could be connected to stage approvals, meaning moving suppliers through the various stages that you have, but it could also be asking for approval to move forward and award certain or specific suppliers in the RFP. So here we can see that all the suppliers are 100% completed. We can also see here green ticks against all of the different tasks that we've asked them to complete, and they're all green. And this would all be feeding in to this comparison page that we're looking at right now. And one of the key benefits with the comparison, and one of the key struggles that we typically hear from procurement and supply chain professionals, is that they spend a huge amount of time trying to collate the different responses that are coming in from suppliers. So they're not receiving the responses in one unified format. They might be receiving these responses in various different formats. They need to take that information and they need to put it into a unified format, which is time consuming. So first of all, we can see all of the questions that we've asked the suppliers throughout the RFP process, and we can also see how they've responded to those questions. And what we can see is that all of this is being compared in a side-by-side view. And then we can compare questions. We can also look and see the line items that have come in and the responses that the supplier have given us related to the commercial aspects of the RFP. All of this is something that is set up during the RFP creation process, which we'll go into later on in the demonstration. But here we can, for example, see all of the line items that we ask the suppliers to provide us with. We can see all of the information that we ask them to submit. So you have delivery dates, you have lead times, input costs, price per unit, and then as well the total cost. You have the ability to include or exclude certain columns within this comparison view. So if you only wanted to look at the price per unit, we can break it down so that we can see the comparison here on line item level, but we also have the section level, so the combined total across all of the line items that have been received. And with DeepStream, you also have the ability to run multiple rounds of negotiation with your suppliers to drive competition within the RFP process. And this example that we've been looking at now has had 2 stages, and the platform will highlight the difference in pricing or the difference in responses across the different stages that you've done. And then lastly, you have the evaluation. So as part of building your RFP, you would also be able to decide the evaluation matrix or the evaluation criteria. So how you will be scoring your suppliers. And this view that we're looking at now, this is where you would be able to go in, review the responses that have come in, and you'd also be able to submit your scores against each criteria, and you can also leave comments against the scores that you're submitting. And if you are multiple evaluators, all of that information will be broken down into an average. So if you are 3 evaluators doing the evaluation, the system will then calculate the average across those evaluators. Once you've done your comparison,
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really like that, Aidan, because one of the challenges that I've had in the past, and I'm sure anyone watching this who's run eSourcing events or eAuctions, it's often difficult to be able to compare actually within the app without having to export all of your data to Excel. And I just think that kind of defeats the point of the whole purpose, doesn't it? That if you can't do any post RFP analysis within the app, then all it is really is an expensive repository for all of your RFPs.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the benefits here is that when you're creating your evaluation criteria, you would be able to either create a completely separate evaluation criteria that might not be linked to any of the responses that are coming in, but you would also then be able to create evaluation criteria that are specifically linked to responses that you're receiving from your suppliers. For example, here you can see we have an evaluation criteria related to one of the specific line items, and the system is highlighting the response that you've received from your suppliers to make it even easier for you to then go in and easily submit a score against that response. And then once you've done your comparison, you might have decided which supplier you've decided to move forward with. You would then be able to go through the awarding process within DeepStream. So up here, we can see award or close the request. And now the system will take you through a guided awarding process to ensure that all of the information that will then be reflected in the reporting side of the platform is accurate. And we want to make sure that the end user has the ability to make any changes or adjustments so that the data that's being showed in the reporting is accurate. So if we wanted to go through the awarding process, we can see that we have a few different awarding scenarios. One of the scenarios being a request level award, meaning that there's one supplier that is awarded all of the business, but then you also have line item level award, meaning that you might be awarding certain line items to specific suppliers, and it's not a case of one supplier winning everything. In this case, we can just go with the first option here, and we can then pick which supplier we are wanting to move forward with. So we can pick OQC voucher just as an example. And as part of this, we also specified a certain budget for the request, and the system is asking if this is still the accurate budget that we're using. We'll say yes in this instance. And then here we also have the system has calculated the total value of the request, i.e. the total sum of the award value. and we can say that this is accurate. And then here we also have the ability to select which savings method we're using. And just to ensure that we're giving as much flexibility as possible, we also are asking or allowing the buyers to manually provide the savings figure, but we could also go with budgeted value versus final value, for an example. And if we continue there, the system is then highlighting the budgeted value versus the final total value, which is giving us this number here. And we can then confirm if this is the accurate number or if it's inaccurate. And then we continue, go through the process, and we then get asked if we want to leave a message to the successful supplier, or if we don't. And then you just go through this process, and once you've completed it, the status of the request would change to awarded, and that request will always be maintained within the system. So if you need to go back, let's say 6 months in time, you'd be able to go into those requests and you'd have all of the correspondence within that RFP.
Aidan, can I just jump in really quickly?
Yeah.
We've had a question come through from Steve. Hi, Steve. Good to see you again. So I think that's quite opportune for this actual point that you've just explained. So he's asking, can you award a primary and a secondary supplier for the business?
It's a good question. So I guess the question is related to awarding or having one supplier being awarded, and if they cannot deliver the goods or the services, you would then have a second option that you would want to move forward with. I guess to answer the question,
Aidan?
yeah.
Yeah, it could also just be that you wanted to award maybe 60% to the primary provider and 40% to a secondary provider.
The quick with different lots, maybe cherry picking. Yeah, maybe Steve, if you can hear us, just pop in the comment whether you mean having like a backup vendor or whether you mean sort of cherry picking certain lots or line items within the RFP, and then I can put that back to Aidan and Dan.
I mean, we can answer both questions. So go on, Aidan.
No, go for it, Dan.
I was just going to say, you can absolutely award to multiple suppliers. So you could structure it in a way where your the different lots or the different line items could be for different amounts. And that would be one way of doing it. We've also got some award scenarios that are on our near-term roadmap that will go more deeply into that and provide more functionality. So the answer is yes, you can do that currently, but there will be specific functionality introduced to make that even smoother and more controlled, like a more controlled specific approach.
Yeah, Steve just came back actually and said, yeah, he meant more as being able to award a backup vendor. So to be able to have dual sourcing essentially, if it's something I assume that may have a long supply chain or maybe business critical in terms of getting inventory in on time.
Yeah, you would be able to do that through the system. We haven't got functionality that's specifically for that, but you would be able to achieve that.
Cool. So yeah, that was the part of showing what a completed request looks like, what the comparison looks like, and then as well how the awarding flow is used. What we'll now go through is how you would actually be able to create a new RFP within the system. So what I jumped to is the request module. And within the request module, you have an overview of all of the requests that have been created within the business. You have quite granular filtering capabilities within the system. You have a search bar, so you can search for specific RFPs. And then as well, you have a tagging system, which works as a way of organizing and structuring the requests that you're working on. And then to create a new request, there are two ways that you can do this. So you have a from a template, and then you have from creating from a blank request. The blank request, this means that you're creating something completely from scratch. And for this example, we'll use one of our templates that we've created here, just to show you the process of creating the request within the system. So I can pick one of my templates here, do new request, and we then see that a lot of the information will have been pre-populated here. So what we would be able to do then is edit or update this information so that it's specific for the RFP that we're running right now. So here you can see you can update or include reference numbers, you can choose your request currency, and then we have lots and awarding scenarios. So you can enable lots within the RFP as well. You have the different awarding scenarios here. So you have the request level award, and then you have the line item level award, or if it's just, for example, an RFI, there may not be an award, so you might want to select no award as an option as well. If we then continue here, we have the different steps to go through before being able to issue this out to our suppliers. So the next step is the stages. So this is where we can determine and decide what or how many types of stages we want the suppliers to go through. And this works as a way of a mechanism for filtering out suppliers throughout the RFP process, and ensures that you're hiding information within the different stages that you're creating. And there's no limitation to how many stages you can have. You can have as many you want or as few as you want. In this specific example now, we have 3 stages. So the NDA stage, the RFP stage, and then the best and final offer stage. And what we would need to do here is set a deadline for each of the stages. So I can just select a few deadlines here. And then as well, as part of doing an RFP, you would also be able to incorporate an eAuction. And this could act as the final stage where you're just bringing the qualified suppliers into that eAuction. If we then continue, we have the details, and this is where you would be able to start adding in all of the relevant information related to the RFP that you're doing. And the system, or within the system, you would be able to create your own pages. These pages, I guess, work similar to if you're using Excel currently. Within those Excel sheets, you might have different tabs. Each tab might be related to a certain area within the RFP. Instead of doing that, you would be able to create these pages. You can use all of your own naming conventions, and then within each page that you create, you'd be able to add in different sections. So you have document sections, you have line item sections, and then you have question sections. So the document section is where you would be able to upload documents onto the RFP, and then you would also then be able to choose for each document that you're adding what action you want the supplier to take. So you can see the different types of options to choose from here. One to point out here is the accept or deviate, meaning that you're allowing suppliers through the system to submit deviations on documents, and all of that communication is happening within the system. Then you can create questionnaires within the platform through the questions module or the questions section. And then as well, within the commercial page here, we've added in our line items, and the line items is where you can add in your products or services that you're asking your suppliers to submit quotes on. All of this is custom. We've tried to build our line items module so that it's replicating how people use Excel today. So you'll have all of the same short commands. You'd be able to copy and paste from Excel into DeepStream. And then we really want to make sure that you have the ability to customize these pricing grids as much as possible. So all of this information is just specific to the template that I'm using, but you would be able to add in your own custom fields or your own custom columns within the platform based on what information you want your suppliers to provide you with. Then you have the evaluation, so you can set up your evaluation criteria or your evaluation matrix within the system, as well, allowing for as much flexibility as possible. You'd be able to set the max scoring points, you'd be able to set the weighting on each criteria. And then we have the spend page, and this is where you can include if there is a budgeted value for the RFP. If at the start of the process there is no budgeted value, you can say that this is not applicable, and then when you come to the stage of awarding the request, you can then update this figure. Then you have the team section. So here you can invite stakeholders onto the request. So if you're working across various departments, you'll be able to invite your colleagues onto the RFP, and then you can set very granular permissions in terms of what they would be able to do and what they can access. And the permissions are split out based on the pages that you have within the RFP. So here you can see the different types of permissions that you can set, and you can also decide if that person is going to be an evaluator or not.
That's interesting. So if you had a stakeholder that you thought was maybe a little bit too close to one supplier and you didn't want them to look at the pricing screen, you could involve them and give them full rights to do whatever they want to do within the RFI phase or within some of the compliance and Q&A sections, but you can prevent them from accessing the pricing while that process is going on in real time.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd be able to determine what it is they would be able to do, but as well what they actually see or what they can access within the RFP. So depending on how you set up the RFP, you would then be able to set permissions based on that. And then you have your suppliers. So here we have added in 4 suppliers onto the RFP. So you'll be able to create supplier lists within the platform, add suppliers to those lists, and then when you're creating a new RFP, you'll be able to choose which suppliers you want to invite. And then if we go to review and send, we also have in-app prompts within the system. So we can see here in this instance that we're prompting the user to use certain functionality within the platform. And in this instance, it's connected to, telling the buyer to look at incorporating best and final offer rounds within the system. And if we press learn how here, we'll be taken through a process to show and educate the buyers on how you use that functionality within the platform. So this is really there to drive more adoption across the client base, but ensure that they're getting the most value out of the system as well. So that's what it would look like when you're creating a request here. And then the next stage would be to issue this out to your suppliers. And when you issue this out, they would be notified. They'll then be able to go in and review the RFP itself. I know that we just have a few minutes left here before there's some Q&A. But what I wanted to show lastly is, we've gone through the process of showing a more complicated RFP, what that looks like when it's completed. We also wanted to show that you can also run, very, very transactional type requests through the platform. So if we go into the example here, quick quote, we can see that this is a 2-stage request. It's stage 1 quotation, stage 2 is the second round of negotiation. And in the comparison page here, we can see that we just have the line items here, the price per unit, the total costs. We've done 2 rounds of negotiation. Here we can see how the prices have changed in the second round. And in this evaluation, it's purely based on price. So what we'll be scoring the suppliers on is purely the price that they've submitted back to us. And I think that's it from a demo perspective. Just lastly, very quickly going through the reporting side. As mentioned in the beginning of the demonstration, everything that's being done on the RFX side is feeding into a reporting page where you have dashboards and reports. And the reporting is split out into two areas: budgeted values, actual awarded values, and then savings that are achieved through the platform, where you can track month on month, quarter on quarter, year on year, and so on. And I'll stop there and hand back to you, James, unless there are any other questions that have come through.
Perfect, Aidan. Thank you. I love the last bit actually, where you can just do quick RFQs, because they're often not considered in more complex e-sourcing platforms. And for those of you actually that listen to the Procurement Software podcast, there's actually going to be an episode out next week where Dan was the guest, and we're talking about the concept that DeepStream have introduced, that they want to get their customers to walk before they can run, in terms of being able to utilize the features and get up and running on the platform. And that the ability to do the quick quotes, often people are bamboozled, aren't they? Users are bamboozled by software being too complex. And if you've got a piece of equipment or a service that maybe only costs 50,000 euros or dollars, in most cases, you're probably not going to use an e-sourcing platform for that, because, hey, it's just quicker to whack together an Excel sheet and send it out on email. Having that feature just enables you to, as a customer of DeepStream, I guess, to just gather a lot more data within the platform than you otherwise would, because you're going to get people using it for much lower value RFPs that would typically go through an e-sourcing platform.
Yeah, exactly. And also linked to what you said about getting our customers to walk before they run. We'd much rather customers use all of that functionality, that basic functionality, and then say, that was great, give me more, than them going into the platform and saying, whoa, there's too much going on here for me to use it. I'm just going to go outside the platform. So that kind of, those two things work hand in hand for sure. There's a question here around where the supplier list's coming from, which we can we can answer that. So there's a few different ways. So you would invite your own suppliers that you want to be on the platform, so you can do that yourself. And then we also have a network of suppliers that have already been invited to the platform that you can dip into. And then we also have an AI supplier discovery function or module that will help you find, obviously, more suppliers for those, like that specific category, that specific criteria that you're looking for, and you can pull suppliers in through that way as well.
Tell us a bit more about that, Dan. How does it work in terms of what sources does it pull the data from, or how comprehensive is it in terms of global sourcing versus Europe or North America, more on a regional basis?
Yeah, all I can say at this point, because we're about to release in the coming weeks, we're about to do a big release on that, and I don't want to steal our thunder for that, but I can tell you that it's global, very much global, and it's not restricted to any particular categories. It does work across all categories and all geographical locations.
Awesome, thank you. So we've done a few slides just giving an overview of who DeepStream are, what they do, and Aidan has done an awesome demonstration to show you some of the features and to take a little bit of a look under the hood around the UI UX. Before we close this out, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this and have any last minute questions, please just pop them in the comments, and we'll pick them up and we'll fire those across to Dan and Aidan before we sign off. If there isn't anything that comes in, for anyone that was maybe only able to catch the last part of this or had to dip in and dip out because of phone calls or anything like that, we will send the link to the stream. We've also live streamed this to YouTube, and it will be accessible on YouTube as well. So that will be indexed for posterity in case anyone wants to watch it after the fact. And likewise, if anyone signed up and wasn't able to join us today, we'll also send out the link to the stream via DM as well after the event. So it looks like nothing else has come in. So last words over to you two. If anyone wants to learn a little bit more about DeepStream, where's the best place that we should send them? Sal has just popped up and said, what's your typical implementation duration time?
Thank you for that, Sal. That's one of my favorite questions that can come in from the market. It's very, very quick implementation time. So really the implementation time is really more around how long it takes the customer to kind of collect the information and collect the questionnaires and the templates, etc., from their side that they want to pull in. But let's say the customer says, look, we haven't got any of that. We just want to implement the solution and use your templates, your questionnaires that you've already got in. Like, we could switch the system on for you within an hour, fully configured with all of the users set up and ready to go. And then the onboarding, the training side of things is usually like 1 hour session for users, because it is very, very easy to use and intuitive. And then we would go into kind of the hand-holding hypercare phase, where we're helping users get up and running and run real life events. But our typical implementation time can go from, as I say, like an hour, but that's very rare because customers need some time usually. But the average, I would say, is 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's anything that doesn't need to be integrated with an ERP system, generally speaking, is a lot faster than anything that does. But that's best in class implementation time. If you can have customers up and running within a day, even though, as you quite rightly alluded to, realistically, to get everyone up on board and fully running, it's usually a couple of weeks. Okay, gents, thanks. Yeah, go for it.
Just one last thing is that we're building more and more integrations now, so they're pre-built for ERPs and other best-of-breed solution providers, so that our customers don't have to wait for that to take place. We're building a kind of ready to go, kind of click to play system.
Okay, so that was our October live webinar, live demo here at procurementsoftware.site. Thank you very much, Aidan and Dan from DeepStream. Always a pleasure talking to you guys. And I love your products. I'm a big fan. UI, UX, and simplicity is what I'm all about. So keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, all the best. See you soon.
Thanks a lot, James.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And thanks for everybody for joining.